Powerful, powerful topic today. We're going to be talking about why the Pharaoh of the Bible should have never allowed the Israelites to come into the land. This was a very serious blunder on his behalf. I understand the mythology of the story, but there's also some a moral that need to be learned behind the story of the Israelites, because these are some parasites. When you talk about the Israelites, parasites, because what they do, they talk about how evil the Egyptians were. All the things that they enslaved, say they are idol worshippers, all type of, this is what the Bible does. It slanders ancient Egypt. And this is to bring Egypt down. This is to bring Egypt down. Because in order for the Israelites, in order for Christianity, in order for Judaism, Islam, any of them to get the prominence that they have today, they got to bring down the mother of civilization, the holy land of the ancient world. And we talking about ancient Egypt. What Israel, what Mecca is today, ancient Egypt and Ethiopia was in the ancient world. And so, when the Romans conquered, when the Greeks conquered, they knew that they may have physically gained control over the land, but spiritually, Egypt and Cush were still looked at as the holy land of the ancient world. And so they knew that as long as Egypt controlled the spiritual direction of the planet, they still was in charge. They still was in charge, because you speaking to a people's spirit and soul. And that's what people go, even rich, elites are going to follow the spiritual order, you see? And so that's what they knew. But the thing is, the Israelites, as much as the Egyptians did for them, all you got is slander in the Bible on ancient Egypt. And all these curses and, Egypt will be brought to its knees. Ethiopia will be brought to its knees. And then you got the 10 plagues of Egypt, even the murdering of the firstborn of Egypt by God himself, the angel of death and all of this. The Nile turned into blood and locusts, pestilence all across the land, eating up the vegetation and all these things. And so Egypt is turned into the wicked nation in the Bible. And so this is to bring down the great mother of civilization and spirituality so that they could take our place. That's just as simple as that. Destroy the identity of ancient Egypt and Ethiopia and then take our place. This is what it's about. And so that Pharaoh, they always talk about the evil pharaohs. They never talk about the good ones that looked out for them when he should not have done that. He should not have let them in. Like when, Abraham, did nobody tell Abraham to come into Egypt? Nobody told Abraham to come into Egypt. Abraham came into Egypt because Canaan was in famine. The area where they was in famine. They could not feed themselves. And so they come into Egypt and they got fed. They was able to get food. They was able to get things that was needed. And so they was blessed by coming into Egypt. Then you got Jacob under Joseph. Joseph supposedly was the prime minister. He was the prime minister in Egypt. So he was second only to the Pharaoh. He was second only to the Pharaoh. And so with that, he asked Pharaoh to allow the Israelites to come into Egypt. And the Pharaoh gave Joseph his blessing, gave them land, which they call Goshen, gave them land and food and things of that nature. And in essence, where they came from, which is a lot of vagabonds, a lot of you got raiders, they ready to come in and conquer and steal, and that's what they was. Just pirates of the desert, you know what I'm saying? Looking for somewhere that they could raid and steal and things. Egypt didn't need the Israelites. You have to look at that relationship. What did Egypt need the Israelites for? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. It wasn't like, hold just a second. That's right, I'm black. I'm black. So, in essence, what did the Egyptians need the Israelites for? Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. What could they do? They was goat herders. They wasn't nothing else. They didn't, they say they built temples. They ain't built not one temple in Egypt. We got to stop with this madness. You can't show me one temple that they built in Egypt. This is all lies and things, because the Egyptians had hundreds of thousands of masons and, that were trained in the priesthood of ancient Egypt. You see, Egypt is a mind-blowing civilization. It takes many, many tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of advanced, skilled technicians in all areas of science, architecture, and engineering to pull that off. Those Israelites was goat herders. They had no greater skill than herding camels, sheep, and goats. So the Egyptians had no need whatsoever for the Israelites. And even in dealing with animals and herding and they already had people in Africa that were masters of that. So they didn't need nobody to even perform that job, of herding the animals and livestock and things of that nature. So it was a mistake for the Pharaoh to have allowed the Israelites to come into Egypt. He should have let the Israelites starve out there. That's what he should have did, and it wouldn't have been no Bible. It would have ended in Genesis, unless God would have fed them. Other than that's how that would have went. God would have had to feed them people, because there's no way that they would have got fed. And now that's a hard thing to say, but in hindsight, in looking at how Egypt has been scandalized in the Bible, it's most definitely should have been the course of action for that Pharaoh not to have allowed the Israelites to come into Egypt. He should not have never done that. So, and many other instances in the Bible when Jesus come in and fled into Egypt. If Egypt was such a wicked nation, yeah, Black Power, we're in the house. If Egypt was so wicked, why did God tell Joseph to take Mary and Jesus and flee into Egypt? Why would God Almighty tell him to go into a wicked nation like that? The Son of God God Almighty, the Messiah, you gonna tell the Messiah to go into Egypt? Why he didn't tell him to go into Mesopotamia or why he didn't tell him to go over there to Chaldea and all, these are supposed to be historical. Why did they go into Egypt? You see? So, and even when you look at Muhammad, another, in Islam, he had to flee into Ethiopia. So why are all these people fleeing into Egypt and Ethiopia and Africa, benefiting from Africa, and then turn around and scandalize Ethiopia, scandalize Egypt, scandalize Africa, and put all these parables of destruction in the Bible, speaking ill of Egypt to destroy the spiritual identity of the mother of civilization in all religion and spirituality on the planet. So to all my family out there, if I had a time machine and I could go back in time and I was the Pharaoh of the Bible and Joseph say, you know what, Pharaoh, my father is out there and he's starving. Can he come in? You know what I would have told Joseph? Well, they just gonna have to starve. Because your people got a history of biting the hand that feed them. They got a history of biting the hand that feed them. And so, we're going to have to leave them out there in the desert to starve. Not only do they bite the hand that feed them, that when others come in to try to attack, instead of them siding with the Egyptians, they side with the invaders against the Egyptians. And that's key. That's another reason why there very well might have been a situation where Egypt had to, put the boot down on some nomads because they sided with some of the desert dwellers that came in to conquer Egypt, and they sided with them desert dwellers. And so if the Egyptians put that boot down on them, they should have, and they should have kept it on them. They should have kept it on them. But anyway, family, I appreciate y'all. A lot of y'all getting in late. I'm still coming black. Don't y'all go nowhere. Wait a minute before I get up off of here. Wait a minute before I get up off of here. Oh, that's okay. My other computer died. But anyway, family, make sure y'all put some comments down there. What do y'all think? Should we have left the Israelites out in the desert to starve? You let me know. Put a comment down there, and I'll get black with y'all real soon. Boom, black pop.